In today's episode, we're going to talk about the disappearance of Tara Grinstead. The case of Tara Grinstead is not a pleasant one. I mean, are any disappearances pleasant? Tara was a beautiful, kind, and selfless woman who wouldn't hurt a fly. So who would want to hurt her? Her boyfriend, a married cop who'd been hitting on her, her former student turned stalker, or someone else entirely? Let's find out. Tara was a 30-year-old 11th grade history teacher at Irwin County High School in Ocilla, Georgia. She also coached the school's cheer squad. Tara absolutely loved her job, so when she didn't show up one Monday morning, her students and colleagues were concerned. As more time passed with no word from Tara, she was reported missing. Tara was last seen just a few days earlier on Saturday, October 22nd, 2005. She went to a beauty pageant and then hit up a friend's barbecue dinner party a few blocks away. Friends said that Tara left from the barbecue sometime around 11 p.m., which is the last time she was reported alive. Tara was unaccounted for that Sunday. Her mom called a few times and she didn't pick up. As soon as Tara was reported missing that Monday, the police went to her house to see if they could find any clues that might suggest her whereabouts. When they pulled up, the officers saw Tara's car in the driveway. So wherever she went, she must have not driven there in her car. There was dirt all over the tires, and it looked like someone pretty tall had driven her car last based on how far back the seat was. Investigators also found an envelope of cash on Tara's dash. When the cops approached Tara's door, they found a business card stuffed inside of it. It was for a police officer from a neighboring town. Upon entering Tara's home, the authorities found no sign of forced entry. At first glance, things seemed pretty normal. Tara's Halloween decorations were still up, her dog and cat were there, and some beauty products were left out from when she helped two girls get ready for the Miss Georgia Sweet Potato pageant. One of the girls who went over to Tara's house that day said that she was in a great mood, which of course, whenever she did hair and makeup for any pageant girl, she was in a great mood. But the further authorities got into the search of Tara's home, the more concerning things got. Tara's phone was plugged into the wall, charging in her room. But her keys, purse, and earrings were gone. The clothes that Tara wore to the barbecue dinner party were lying on the floor. Tara was a very clean person who would not just leave her clothes on the floor like that for 2 days. Investigators also noticed Tara's alarm clock was on the floor. It had apparently fallen off her nightstand and had been shut off for 6 hours. Also, her lamp was broken, and there were beads scattered across the floor, suggesting some sort of struggle. One of the most concerning discoveries of them all was a singular latex glove that was found on the ground outside in front of Tara's house. The glove was collected and sent off to a lab for testing, and the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, or GBI, was soon brought in to help the case because the local authorities believed something was definitely wrong. When the results came in, there were 2 different DNA samples found on the glove, one belonging to Tara, another belonging to an unknown male. Uh-oh. Tara grew up in Hawkinsville, Georgia, which is about an hour away from Ocilla. She was described by her childhood best friend as very radiant, inside and out. She always had a smile on her face and said all the right things to make other people feel better. Since she was a little girl, Tara wanted to be a teacher. She later aspired to progress in the education field to the point of becoming an administrator or a principal. To help earn money to go to school, Tara got into beauty pageants. She won the Miss Tifton pageant in 1999, which led her to compete in the Miss Georgia pageant that year. She didn't win Miss Georgia, but getting that far was a huge accomplishment. Using the money she earned from all of her pageants, Tara paid her way through college. She went to Middle Georgia College and Valdosta State University. After earning her master's, Tara got a job teaching at Irwin County High School in Ocilla. By this point, Tara was no longer competing in pageants, but stayed in the pageant world by mentoring young pageant girls. One of her mentees, Dana, said, "She just took me underneath her wing. She taught me the ins and outs of interviews and hair and makeup and wardrobe." So, as you can tell, Tara was just a very kind, selfless person. At the time of her disappearance, she was going to night school to get a specialist degree in administration. Ocilla was a very small town. Like, the population was just about 3,000. So you can imagine how much of a shock Tara's disappearance was. Tara didn't seem to be in any trouble that would put a target on her back. But then again, there were a few people who seemed a little suspicious. One of Tara's neighbors, Janice, dedicated a lot of time to helping solve Tara's case. She created a website called findtara.com for people to learn about her case and submit tips. Janice became quite an expert on Tara's case. She said there were a few men in Tara's life who were looked into as suspects. For starters, Tara and her boyfriend Marcus had broken up just a few weeks prior. Marcus used to be a police officer, but he'd recently joined the Army and become a ranger, which meant he had to go overseas. Tara and Marcus dated for about 6 years, but I guess the whole overseas thing led them to break up, which Tara's friend said left her very distraught. Tara saw herself getting married to Marcus, and she really didn't want to break up. Marcus came back to Ocilla earlier that month, so he was in town when she disappeared. Police questioned Marcus about Tara's disappearance, but he said he went to a bar on Saturday night with a former colleague from the police force. This alibi was confirmed. Marcus did mention something a little concerning during his interview, though. He claimed Tara said if she saw him with another woman, that she'd take her own life. A lot of case followers focus on Marcus's military background, saying he's trained to kill. But he was never considered a suspect because of his alibi and the lack of evidence against him. And the suicide theory was pursued, but it didn't seem feasible. How would Tara be able to hide her body? She also didn't seem like the person to leave behind all of her students, relatives, pets, and everything. So even though Tara was heartbroken about Marcus, she got back into the dating game. And she came in strong. Janice said Tara had been dating a lot of men on the down low. Remember the cop's business card left in her front door? There were some rumors about him and Tara dating, or at least him making advances on her. Word has it, this cop often paid visits to Tara's home, and there were over 20 voicemails on Tara's answering machine from him that Saturday night. The cop was interviewed by investigators. Isn't that ironic? He said he stopped by Tara's house Sunday night, but she wasn't home, so he left his card in the door. So, Anthony was a former student of Tara's who later turned into her stalker. Anthony was described as a troubled kid. Tara picked up on this and gave him extra attention when he was her student. Well, Anthony grew unhealthily fond of Tara, to the point where he tried to break into her house in March of 2005. Tara was obviously freaked out and she filed a police report. She said he knocked on her doors and windows aggressively and was trying to force her to come outside. But some reports say Anthony claimed to have had a romantic relationship with Tara. As much as people talked about how suspicious all three of these men were, there was never enough evidence to pin any of them to the crime. None of their DNA matched the ones on that latex glove. And they all had alibis. Then again, it's unclear what exact time Tara vanished. There was like a 35-hour window for her disappearance, making these partial alibis. During this time, these were the most popular theories: that Tara ran away, that she'd been kidnapped, or that she'd been slain. The same year Tara disappeared, someone apparently reported a pretty concerning tip to the police. Apparently, the tipster heard two young men at a party talking about Tara's case, saying they were involved. How so, you ask? They said they took Tara's body out to a pecan orchard and burned it in a fire pit. Hold it, they what? Their names were Bo Dukes and Ryan Duke. Well, even though the police were allegedly made aware of this jaw-dropping bit of information, they never did anything. And this wasn't the last time a hot lead was ignored. In 2007, a man named John called the police with a tip about Tara's case. One day, John drove to a bar with his friend, Bo Dukes. As they were driving, they saw a missing billboard for Tara. After John and Bo consumed a few drinks at the bar, Bo brought up the woman on the billboard, claiming to know what happened to her. Bo told John his friend and roommate Ryan accidentally strangled Tara and asked Bo to help him get rid of the body. As hot as this lead is, the cops never followed up with John after he called this in. He literally called 3 different police departments in the area and the GBI, and no one returned his call. Over the next 10 years, John continually followed up with the police and never heard anything from them. In 2016, the police apparently finally called John back. They interviewed Bo that year, but nothing came of it. That same year, a true crime podcaster named Payne Lindsay got involved in Tara's case. Payne was researching Tara's case to cover on his podcast, Up and Vanished. He got super invested and made a post on a web sleuth forum. A private investigator by the name of Dr. Maurice Godwin saw Payne's post and reached out. Dr. Godwin told Payne he'd been researching Tara's case since 2006 and would be more than happy to fill him in on everything he knew. Payne was like, heck yeah, thanks dude, and Dr. Godwin gave Payne the tea. And he advised Payne to bring someone with him if he goes to Ocilla because he said it had become a weird place. Oddly enough, Payne was connected to Tara more than he knew. Payne's grandma lived in the area, and a friend of hers was one of the last people to see Tara before she vanished. Wow, that's wild. Payne began releasing podcast episodes about Tara's case, which gained a lot of attention. During all of this, another tip came in about Bo. It was from a woman named Brooke Sheridan who was dating Bo. One day, Bo confessed to Brooke about helping Ryan cover up Tara's homicide. Brooke said she went back and forth on whether or not she should tell the police, but she finally realized Tara's family's peace was more important than Bo's freedom. Duh. Brooke then talked to Bo and begged him to confess, which he allegedly agreed to do. So, Brooke came to the police with this information, who finally interviewed Bo. Bo told the authorities what all of the tipsters reported for the past 12 years, that his friend Ryan executed Tara and needed help covering up the evidence. Bo claimed Ryan stole his truck and used it to transport Tara's body to a pecan orchard owned by his family. There, both men burned Tara's body, which took place over 2 days. Bo said Ryan was the sole perp in the actual execution, but both men were involved in the burning of Tara's body. After Bo shared this information with the detectives, Ryan was arrested for homicide. Bo was also arrested a few weeks later for his involvement. Apparently, Ryan confessed that he was an addict and needed money. He told investigators he broke into Tara's house that night just to take money from her purse. While he was rummaging through Tara's things, Ryan got spooked because he thought she was behind him. He said he punched her reactively but didn't mean to. He was just scared and acted on instinct. But that blow caused Tara's demise. Turns out, Ryan was a match for the DNA found on the latex glove. And there was a phone call made from Ryan's phone to Tara that Sunday. Got him. So, here's some helpful information about Bo and Ryan before we get to their trials. Bo was a former Army supply specialist who served 3 years in jail after his wife was found guilty of stealing $150,000 from the Army. Yikes. Rumor has it, Brooke's tip was actually constructed by her and Bo to get the $100,000 reward money to help pay off the debt Bo owed to the Army. To make matters worse, Bo apparently started making anonymous comments on web threads about Tara's case. He was legit answering questions, giving all these hypothetical stories that turned out to be true. So messed up. Like Bo, Ryan had a criminal history. In 2010, he went to jail for a DUI. While in jail, Ryan apparently was placed on suicide watch. Ryan and Bo were best buds in school, and they were both students of Tara's a few years before her disappearance. As for the motive, it seemed as if Ryan had a huge crush on Tara. And not only Tara. A Facebook message was revealed that Ryan sent one of his other former teachers. It said, "How are you? Just an older, wiser fool, seeing how you were doing. Gotta admit, thought you were sexy. Things aren't looking great for me, but it's okay. Life is the singularity we all share. If this is the last we speak, I want you to know you're a wonderful teacher and a kind person. Thank you for allowing me and my stubborn self to learn. I wish you the best. Ryan A. Duke. So let's get to the trials. Bo's was first. It took place in March of 2019. He was found guilty and he received a 25-year sentence. Before his trial, though, Bo was out on bail. During this time, he forced 2 women over to his house and made them engage in relations with him against their will. The 2 women survived the encounter and went to the police to make a report. Because of this, Bo was arrested for rape, aggravated false imprisonment, and possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. So, Ryan's trial took place in 2022. Unlike Bo, he remained in jail from his arrest in 2017 to his trial. Once Bo was put behind bars in 2019, Ryan's story drastically changed. Here's what he said actually happened. That Saturday night, Ryan was super sick and passed out in the bathroom of his and Bo's mobile home. The next morning, Bo woke Ryan up in a panic. He said he offed Tara and showed Ryan her purse and license to prove it. Ryan said he just thought Bo had stolen Tara's purse. So Ryan then drove Bo's truck out to try and find Tara to give her her purse back. And he apparently called 411 to try and get her phone number, which is why he called her. Of course, Tara didn't answer, and Bo somehow made Ryan come out to the pecan orchard. There, Bo showed Ryan Tara's body. Ryan said she was lifeless, covered in bruises. Then, Bo pushed up Tara's shirt and started groping her before the 2 set her body on fire. I'm not exactly sure how I feel about this version of the story. Bo clearly has a more aggressive criminal history to prove he's capable of doing something so terrible to Tara. But at the same time, Ryan's DNA was in that glove at her house, which makes it seem like he was more involved than he now claims to be. Ryan said he didn't tell the truth in the beginning because he was afraid of Bo. But once he knew Bo was in prison, he was finally comfortable telling the truth. At the end of his trial, Ryan was found guilty of concealing a death, but not found guilty of homicide, aggravated assault, or burglary. Ryan was sentenced to 10 years in prison, which is the maximum sentence for the concealing charge. By that point, Ryan had already been in jail for 5 years awaiting his trial, which counts toward his sentence. So that means he only has 5 years left if he's not paroled before then. At the time we're filming this, these are the latest updates in Tara's case. And I can't say I'm pleased with them, honestly. I guess it's good the perps have been named and partially charged, but the story is still very muddy. Do you think Ryan is telling the truth about Bo being responsible? Or do you think it's the other way around? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. This is Lindsay, and I'll see you next time on Killer Bites.